Solomon.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Carole MacNeil in Toronto.
And I'm Evan Solomon at the Liberal Leadership Convention in Montreal. Welcome to CBC News Sunday.
Coming up on CBC News Sunday.
A just Canada, a prosperous Canada, a sustainable Canada.
We come at you live from Montreal, where the Liberals have just elected a new leader. What does it mean for the party, and what does it mean for the next election?
And Stéphane Dion's deal with Gerard Kennedy clinched the Liberal leadership. We'll bring you an exclusive look at how that deal was sewn up.
You're Bosie. There you go. That's my boy.
Man's best friend or walking germ dispenser? How dangerous is it to get this close to your pet?
And with Britney Spears' panty party, the top Googled news story this week, we'll ask celebrity magazine queen Bonnie Fuller, is celebrity gossip dragging journalism into the gutter?
Obviously, we have a gossip gene.
Do you gossip?
So, of course I gossip. Everybody gossips.
And why are these former porn stars now on a mission to save souls?
If you remember, God had a prostitute standing at his feet when he died, and 11 disciples ran away.
From saving souls to possibly saving the grits.
We are counting the days until the next election.
This must be CBC News Sunday. Well, what a night in politics in two parts of the country. In Montreal, of course, with the the delegate selection of Stéphane Dion as the leader of the Liberal Party, and also in Alberta. I want to mention this to the folks at home who might not have heard it yet. But in Alberta, Eddie Stelmach was chosen as the leader of the Progressive Conservatives, taking the place of Ralph Klein. So, Evan, it was, as you put it earlier, the convention of underdogs in two places in this country yesterday.
Absolutely. It really was the conventions of underdogs. Obviously, in Alberta, that will take the Conservative Party. They're in a different direction than they thought that a Dinning leadership would take it. And, of course,
or
here
in
Montreal,
leadership.
The Liberal... That's right. And here in Montreal, Carol, as you saw, and everybody saw it, dramatic scenes, the Liberal Party's done something really radical. They've really turned into, as one Liberal Mandarin told me yesterday, the first mainstream party in any Western democracy to become essentially a Green Party. It was Stéphane Dion has made sustainability his issue. He has green signs, and this could be a very radical move, Carol.
Well, you know, he's made it his issue, but already the Conservatives are coming out and saying, look, is environmental sustainability really your issue, Stéphane Dion? I mean, under your watch, as you were environmental minister with Paul Martin, greenhouse gas emissions went up 35% under your watch. So can you really say that you're green? Can you really say that you're for reform when you were in cabinet when the scandals were going on? These are the challenges that Stéphane Dion will have to face as he moves into the political drama of dealing with trying to unseat the Harper Conservatives.
And you're absolutely right, which makes this gamble for the Liberal Party even more dramatic. And of course, you saw yesterday the party mandarins all lining up towards Michael Ignatieff, and yet you had Gerard Kennedy, and we'll get to this later in the show, as you know, Carol, that kind of dramatic move, the king-making move, and we'll have Gerard Kennedy on the show to tell us about how he made that deal with Stéphane Dion. But that deal really altered the future of the Liberal Party, and now we have to analyze exactly the impact of what a Stéphane Dion Liberal Party will do. And with all those things that you just mentioned, how the Conservatives and the NDP will react to a party that has decided to put sustainability and the environment front and center with all the controversies the Liberals have had over that issue.
Yes, but as you point out, I mean, really, it was dramatic yesterday, wasn't it, in terms of Gerard Kennedy, who legally did not have to move off the ballot, chose to move off the ballot early and throw his support behind Stéphane Dion.
In some ways, Carol, this was the most stunning moment of the whole convention here. And a lot of the drama, of course, unfolded on national television, but over the course of the convention, our cameras captured some of the decisive moments behind the scenes. And we followed some of the key players here, including one who helped strike this famous deal that put Stéphane Dion into the Liberals' top job. This really was politics as real, as raw, and as revealing as it gets. Our cameras have captured it all to give you an inside look at how this convention took the turn. Let's take a look.
It is the last of its kind.
Yeah.
Hey, good to see you.
My name's Mark Holland. I'm Member of Parliament for the riding of Ajax-Pickering. I am also Gerard Kennedy's Ontario Campaign Chair.
Well, tonight is the kickoff to the convention. We started off with a hospitality suite. It's one of the only ones happening, so there's a ton of delegates up there, a lot of excitement, and we're feeling pretty good about our chances at this point. We're in talks right now with the Dion folks. It's looking very good that we've got an arrangement. The question is exactly how it's going to work, at what point we do cross to one another. You sort of sort through that. And well, my job is to try to talk with the other camps, along with some other key people, to be able to make these deals happen, to be able to explain why it's in people's best interest to come to Gerard. So I'm a persuader.
I'm Richard Mahoney. I am the past candidate in Ottawa Centre, longtime Liberal, and I'm helping Bob Rae in his campaign to become leader of the Liberal Party. Have you guys thought about Rae? Bob Rae?
I haven't.
Haven't?
Yes. Good friends with George Smitherman.
Oh, yeah. Just in a meeting with him?
Yep. He's actually best man from the wedding.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
So he's working hard for us, actually.
He is. He's a great guy. But Ray's a good guy.
Have you thought about Ken?
I think that in politics is very much a people contact sport and much more art than science, in the sense that it is it's about people and their emotions and their feelings and their ideas. So we're in the middle of a Dion demonstration.
I think we're going to be run over.
I think there's a very strong likelihood that Mr. Dion and Mr. Kennedy have an arrangement, a deal made between themselves. But what I do know about conventions, I've seen these things done in the past, is that delegates don't delegate to their candidate their choice of who they're going to support when he or she leaves the ballot. It just doesn't work that way.
Showtime.
Well, it's Thursday, day 2 of the convention, here around 1 o'clock. We're getting ready for the discussions with a couple of different camps, trying to finalize things before tomorrow, because obviously the chaos of tomorrow is going to make it really hard.
There's 3 Dion and 8 Kennedy delegates.
Big news is with Dion. It's not going to be announced until a little bit later, when we both agree it's the strategic point to do it, but it looks like we have been able to get a deal there.
I'm so glad to see you all here.
This is the pinnacle of fun for a politician, I guess, however sad that is. I love this process.
There's a lot of rumors about Kennedy and Dion.
Yeah.
I don't think that's true. I think we can blow it apart.
Yeah. See you then.
The speech is going to be so good, Ian, that one of the 4 frontrunners is going to drop out and endorse me immediately after that. Oh, sorry.
So what kinds of secret rituals have you been doing to prepare for your speech?
I engaged the best speechwriter in the country, me. Or I should say the best I can afford. I know in my team there's a range of candidates that they would go to after I am voted off the island. So we'll see, it's kind of weird talking about yourself in the third person like you are some uncle who's passed away or something like that, but he really was a great fellow. we'll miss him very much.
When you're voted off the island, whose island will you go to?
I don't know. The shortest swim in terms of my values.
Bob, how are you?
Good to see you.
Just call me Scott.
Just call me Bob.
How are you? Good to see you.
I really like Mark Holland, I really do. And Mark Holland is somebody who I think has the ability to be quite persuasive to people. Even people who don't know him, he's a persuasive guy.
We don't have a choice. We have to trust each other.
Yes.
And the other great thing is we got two candidates who can't lie. So it's...
And what we want, you see, is a united party and a united Canada.
Right, and so the key here is I'm very cool with the logo. And maybe the name, we'll see. Our deal with Dion is 100%. And one of the things that we've made very, very clear to the Ignatius folk and to the Ray folk that we intend to honor our deal no matter what.
Okay, it's Friday morning at 11 o'clock. We're at the Bob Ray sort of convention headquarters, and what we're doing here is we're having a meeting with people from across the country.
Head in the room, we're going to do a training session.
Tonight is going to be a long, long night. The first ballot results will not be announced till midnight. So I think people are feeling pretty good about Bob's chances. At this point, nobody knows what's going to happen. Anyone who tells you they do doesn't know enough about human nature and politics, I would say.
Previous Liberals have done before us. It's time right here, right now. Merci beaucoup.
The first ballot voting is going on. I just voted on the first ballot of what will be many ballots, I think, over the next couple of days.
So we're going to go watch Bob speak. What does he need to say? What does he need to do?
What Bob needs to do in the speech is essentially showcase his strength. He is the leader most ready to take our party into election, which is probably happening in the next 6 months or so.
And let us remember Laurier's words, Canada first, Canada last, Canada always. Good night. Thank you very, very much. Thank you.
I thought it was great. I mean, it was very dramatic coming out and speaking directly to the Liberal Party as a candidate for leader without text, without any of the props.
He did exactly what he had to do. Your expectations get high. You start thinking that it could happen. You know, another hour from now can bring something that you're not expecting, including the ballot results if we ever get them. 856 each. I'm surprised that Dion caught us on the first ballot. We can't be behind on after the second ballot results. And back out to work.
The game is on, and it's going to be quite a day tomorrow.
Tell me something I don't know.
There is an alleged deal between Gerard Kennedy and Stéphane Dion, so the question will be now that Stéphane has finished ahead of Gerard on the first ballot, will that hold?
We're just waiting for the second ballot results, and this is our ballot. If we get into third, we're going to win this thing. We feel really good about it. There's a really strong movement towards a consensus candidate, and there's a battle on right now between Dion and ourselves for that position.
Accueillez à nouveau vos co-présidents du Congrès, l'honorable Dominique Leblanc et Madame Tania Capo.
Mr. Stéphane Dion, 974.
Monsieur Gerard Kennedy, 884.
It's noon. We've just had the results of the second ballot. Very interesting results again. Apparently there is a deal between Mr. Kennedy and Dion, as we predicted last night. And it looks like that means now that Mr. Kennedy will go to Mr. Dion.
It's the second ballot results. We're about 100 behind. And so it looks like we've got to make a move. so that we can ensure that we help Stéphane and allow Stéphane to become the leader.
How you feeling?
I'm crushed.
He's proven that he has grown and he has. I know how
Made the decision that the biggest impact we could have in the convention would be to move then, and that this was about more than our candidacy. It was about renewal. I'm sorry. It's I mean, at the end of the day, Gerard Kennedy is an amazing friend and somebody who I think the world of, and some loss hurts. This is our loss, and it's a loss to somebody who I really care about and really believe in, and so it hurts.
Now the last question is, what will happen to the delegates that support Gerard Kennedy? Will they follow his lead, or will they make their own choices? And that's what the next ballot's going to be all about.
Mr. Kennedy's indicated that he's supporting Mr. Dion, and so am I.
I went in and talked to almost everybody in the Kennedy box. I think a lot of them were following him.
We need your help here. We need absolutely deciding. Well, I need you. We really need you here. We need to get on that last ballot. So I need your help. I need your help today.
We're here to announce the results of the third ballot.
I think that the Kennedy deal with Dion was tilted the balance. I am still considering it over, but I think I'm probably going to give my vote on the final ballot to Stéphane Dion. My friend Megan.
Give him a kiss.
Well, that was worth it. Finish that, gentlemen, I mean.
Thank you. Thank you.
Let's go.
Dans l'ordre alphabétique, Monsieur Stéphane Dion, 2500.
The most exciting race in the history of our party is over. Let's get ready for the election!
I am so excited, both by the outcome and also by the fact it's finally done.
Well, Carol, that was just some of the dramatic events that unfolded. Of course, perhaps the most dramatic part was how, when the deal was struck between Gerard Kennedy and Stéphane Dion, he managed to take over 90% of his delegates over to Dion, and all throughout the day, the exciting ballots that unfolded here on the floor. Ken Dryden moving over, obviously, to Dion, but then Bryson moving over to Bob Ray. And as people went up and down, it really was that moment when Kennedy took almost all his delegates over there that made the dramatic difference, as you saw, and that deal unfold, changed it.
And of course, the next thing, as Stéphane Dion said, and as everyone will say, is this man a person who can beat Stephen Harper in the next election? Can he unseat the Prime Minister? And Evan, we'll ask politicians. You and I are going to put it to the politicians from the parties, and then we will speak live with Gerard Kennedy, the man who put Stéphane Dion over the top, and asked him why he made that deal. Also, in our second hour, what's so scary about raw milk that an Ontario farm was raided and the farmer's now on a hunger strike? Also coming up, this story. When you kiss your dog, are you getting more than love? Are you getting monkeypox?
Monkeypox. That's his nickname, is Monkey. Are you going to give Mummy monkeypox? You better not.
And why are these women determined to bring strippers to Jesus?
Our real goal is to help people in the sex industry start a relationship with God.
And we'll ask one of the world's biggest gossips why the hunger for celebrity news just keeps on growing.
I mean, it's just like, think about high school. People always gossiped about the people that were like the jocks and the cheerleaders.
after suffering a traumatic head injury, doctors told him his old life would be gone forever. Boy, were they wrong.
There's no way I will be a vegetable.
Brain Damaged, Take 2, Tuesday at 10 on CBC Newsworld.
If you have difficulty getting in and out of the tub, you don't have to worry anymore. Premier Bathrooms brings freedom and safety to your life.
Yeah, we were afraid of someone falling in the tub and having an accident.
There is no uncertainty about stepping in. It's very safe.
Makes me feel that I don't have to worry about her.
Premier Bathrooms custom bath enclosures are easy to step into. Feature sturdy hand grips and safety bars, secure locking mechanisms, and contoured seating.
Well, it was marvelous. Very relaxed.
Just wonderful.
Rejuvenate yourself with Premier Bathrooms hydrotherapy jets. You don't have to fear slipping and falling anymore. Call Premier Bathrooms for yourself or call for someone you love. Call now and Premier Bathrooms will send you a free information kit.
Call 1-800-883-8841.
So this is Christmas, and what have you done? Another year over, and a new one just begun.
A new year is about to begin. What better time to start helping a child who may not make it without you? Please, call this number now. You'll receive information about sponsoring a child through Christian Children's Fund of Canada. You can help provide a child in need, along with that child's family and community, with food, medical care, schooling, a future.
Christmas, for a weak and for a strong, the rich and the poor ones, the road is so long.
Call Christian Children's Fund of Canada now for information and with no obligation. Within 10 days of your call, you will receive the photo and story of a child in need and information on how to become a sponsor. A simple phone call. So little to do, but to a child who needs your help, it is the most meaningful Christmas present you may ever give. Call now and sponsor by pre-authorized check or by credit card and receive your choice of free gift. Our way of saying thank you for helping a child in need. Your generous contribution will give a child a chance. Please call Christian Children's Fund of Canada today.
A mob hit gone bad.
And all of a sudden I felt my hair move and then I realized there were bullets.
A mobster turned informant.
He's the one that's going to order my death. A man with no heart.
On the run with the rat. The Fifth Estate. Tonight at 7 Eastern on CBC Newsworld.
I believe that Stéphane is the future of the party and future Prime Minister of Canada.
Welcome back to CBC News Sunday. That was Liberal leadership candidate Martha Hall-Findlay throwing her support behind the eventual winner, Stéphane Dion. She's one of the politicians joining us now to discuss what Dion's victory will mean for Canadian politics and the next election. Let's welcome some interesting political players. First of all, welcome to you, Martha Hall-Findlay.
Oh, great to be here.
Good to see you after a long, long night, I'm sure, and an early morning. We're also joined by Pat Martin from the NDP. Thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you.
And James Moore from the Conservative Party of Canada. Thanks so much for joining us as well. So let the games begin now. Let's start with you, Martha Hall-Findlay. Of course, you still have to run for a seat, but let's get you right into the game, the cut and thrust of federal politics right away. You decided to throw your support very early. I think you were the first one to go to Stéphane Dion. Here's a guy that has made the environment and sustainability the signature issue of this convention and perhaps now of the Liberal Party. Do you think this is an issue that he can win on and beat Stephen Harper?
It's one of the issues, and it's certainly not the only reason that I supported him. In fact, all of the candidates have stressed the environment. it takes a lot more than just one issue to run a country, and Mr. Dion has been very, very good about stressing his 3 pillars, the economic sustainability, the environment. He really, to me, exhibited character, and that ultimately was the reason, and I think Canadians are going to respond to the fact of somebody with such character, passion, and real integrity. Those will be even more important in the election to come.
James Moore, their Conservative reaction to the selection of Stéphane Dion.
Well, this is a continental country. It's as diverse a country as any on the planet. So anybody who can win a national leadership race over a 9-month span is an incredible accomplishment. And Stéphane Dion, the way he did it on 4 ballots, coming from 4th to 1st, is an impressive thing. So thinking about that going into a general election campaign, we certainly don't underestimate any political opponent. I think the biggest problem he's going to have is that over 80% of Liberal delegates here did not have him as their first choice for Liberal Party leader. He's got a huge repair job to do within the Liberal Party. He had no support from any members of Parliament or senators from west of Ontario, and in the province of Quebec, he had no support. He didn't have the support of a single cabinet minister from either Jean Chrétien or Paul Martin's government. So he's got a huge repair job in the province of Quebec. Outside of Quebec and in Western Canada, he is completely unknown. So he's got a lot of work to do.
All right, and what about the NDP reaction to the selection of Stéphane Dion?
Well, I think we're optimistic. You know, that the opposition parties can find things that unite us. We certainly welcome having another strong voice for environmental issues. We're going to have to grow that base of people who believe in the environment as a key issue beyond just taking votes from one another. You know, frankly, we have to have a leader that we're optimistic, maybe a leader that can grow that base into the west, for instance, further into Quebec. It remains to be seen, I suppose, if Mr. Dion can not only cobble together his own party, but also grow that base. That'll be the real challenge. On those issues, on unity and the environment, the opposition parties have got to talk to each other. They've got to work on this. Let's make it a priority.
All right, well, let's talk about, obviously, this notion of Quebec as a nation within Canada, a Conservative motion, obviously, that the Prime Minister passed in the House. Martha Hall Finley, I talked to a young sovereigntist late last night. Of course, this convention floor was full of people from different parties, and he said they were delighted that Stéphane Dion won. And I'm quoting him, he said he's one of the most polarizing and least liked politicians here in Quebec because of his position with the Clarity Act. Can he win Liberal votes in Quebec?
Absolutely. No question in my mind. Because, as I said before, it's not just one issue. And yes, obviously that's very emotional here. But look at the challenges that we had the last election. And with all of the references to sponsorship, Stéphane Dion emerges from that as a man with impeccable integrity. And ultimately, when you look at all of the challenges we've had in the past, when the people of Quebec see a man with integrity who has spine, who stood up for what he believed in and has such strong character, that will encourage an awful lot of people. I'm convinced. I think he'll get a tremendous response ultimately.
Pat wants to jump in there.
Although, Martha, once you've been painted as a mouse in the political cartoons or as a rat, it's very tough to come back from ridicule. That's the only thing a politician can't bounce back from, Martha. So it is worrisome. And as you know, as a strong Canadian nationalist, as a federalist, we want the most pragmatic person.
Can you sort of explain exactly what you mean by that, so people understand being painted as a rat or a mouse? What do you mean?
So during the whole Clarity Act debate and that whole unity struggle, the political cartoons in Quebec had Stéphane Dion as a rat, as a mouse in their political cartoons. That kind of ridicule is about the only thing that a politician can't bounce back from, and this really worries me as a federalist. I want what's best for the Canadian nationalist movement, and this is scary. I'm not sure it's going to break through in Quebec.
And what about the Conservatives now? Because clearly the lines have been drawn to an extent that the Conservatives talked about this Quebec as a nation within Canada, and Stéphane Dion sort of held his nose and backed that notion. But here's the author of the Clarity Act. What will the Conservatives do?
Well, I mean, on that motion, the Federalist Party is essentially united and moved forward. I think, to be honest, on that one issue, I think we're really past that debate. Now we're talking about who is the best national leader, and I think. Well, frankly, I think Stephen Harper wins that debate hands down. I mean, he is the leader of a national government. We have members of Parliament elected in every single province in Canada except for PEI, and we are truly a national government, and we're going to grow even further. Stéphane Dion is a polarizing, divisive person in the province of Quebec. There were Quebec federal Liberal delegates at this convention who walked over to me and walked over to Michael Fortier from here in downtown Montreal and said, we're going to be with you guys in the next election campaign because we're not supporting Stéphane Dion. It happened. And he's a virtually unknown in Western Canada. So I think he's somebody who's going to have real difficulties presenting himself as a national alternative relative to Stephen Harper.
Can he do that? I mean, how does he deal with his lack of profile in the West and this divisiveness in Quebec, Martha Hall Finlay? Does Stéphane Dion emerge from this as a national figure that can unify this party?
Well, I can tell you as a Liberal that on the ground, Stéphane Dion was in fact the least polarizing, certainly among Liberals, on the ground for the last 10 months. I mean, we've all been traveling across the country, and he has been incredibly well received, in fact, in Alberta, in BC. It was a challenge for me because I go to places and think that we would be able to garner support, and people all over the place will say, yeah, but you know, I really like that Stéphane Dion guy.
But is the electability the issue here, Martha, that the guy is likable, but is he electable? And the question is he electable by beating Stephen Harper or Pat Martin by moving to the left on the environment, on social justice issues, and actually beating and taking votes away from Jack Layton? Pat Martin.
See, there's two roads back for the Liberal Party. One is through Quebec, and I think that's scorched earth with Stéphane Dion. The other is trying to take back those 1.5 million votes that we've taken from them in the last 2 elections. And I don't see any real risk from that, I mean, with Dion. So I don't see, and the other thing is I don't see any real structural changes to the Liberal Party. There was no real serious policy convention debates here like we enjoy at our conventions that would lead Canadians to believe that they're going to be any different even with a new leader. A new leader alone doesn't erase the record.
Last answer on this, and then we'll let you go, Martha. No serious policy debate?
In terms of the future of the party, I don't know if you were watching the same thing that I was watching yesterday, but I think we saw a new generation for the Liberal Party.
You adopted no policy, and over 80% of the delegates don't want him as their first choice for leader. That's a problem. That's a real problem.
Well, it's a leadership convention, and that's in the
over
speeches.
80%.
In the speeches on Friday night, I watched the room, and I watched the reaction of people in the crowd, and Stéphane Dion rallied everybody, not just his partisan
the consensus
supporters.
Was he gave the worst speech. The consensus was he gave the worst speech.
Well,
not among Liberals on the floor, it wasn't.
Well, Martha, welcome to the cut and thrust of inter-federal party discussion here. I want to thank all three of you for joining us on this morning. Of course, Pat Martin from the NDP, Martha Hall Finlay, leadership candidate for the Liberal Party and early riser, and James Moore from the Conservative Party. Thanks, all of you. That's great. Carol, back to you.
Coming up next, the kingmaker, Gerard Kennedy, the kingmaker who brought Stéphane Dion to victory. Stay tuned for that interview.
I'm Mac. And I'm a PC. You know, I actually just finished a home movie. That's so funny. I just finished my own home movie. I did it on iMovie. It was really easy. Well, I doubt it's as excellent as mine, but I'd be happy to take a look. Yeah, that would be great. Okay, roll it.
Hi, I'm a Mac home movie.
It looks really professional, right? Well, great. Bye. Wait. What about yours? Can we see yours?
Please.
Well, okay, sure.
What's up? PC home movie.
Work in progress?
So intelligent, it knows precisely when to turn rear-wheel drive performance into all-wheel drive control. So intuitive, it's beyond machine. The all-new 306 horsepower G from Infiniti.
Who said you have to stand still to create a great still life? Capture spontaneity, not blurriness. Panasonic digital cameras with optical image stabilization. Panasonic. Ideas for life.
Attention, anyone who uses pliers, better update your toolbox with a Viper Grip, the next generation of pliers. Your old pliers give you either power or speed, but not both. Forget about them. But the revolutionary Viper Grip gives you both speed and power, and the versatility of 2 tools in 1. The Viper Grip is better 3 ways. First, regular locking pliers are just too slow. The Viper Grip automatically self-adjusts and locks to save time. Second, adjustable pliers are awkward and don't give you much power, but the Viper Grip is all about power, multiplying hand force up to 6 times. And third, many jobs require multiple types of pliers, but the Viper Grip quickly transforms from a locking to a non-locking pliers. So Viper Grip is the only pliers to provide both speed and power and the versatility of 2 tools in one.
Call now to get the patented Viper Grip for only $19.99. That's right, you get the innovative Viper Grip 2-in-1 pliers for just $19.99. When you buy your Viper Grip, ask about the new 6-inch and 7-inch needle nose models. Viper Grip makes a great gift for anyone on your list. Buy it now at your local Canadian Tire or call 1-866-561-3760.
Why does Maggie choose Fidelity? Well, she started saving early and liked to watch her savings grow. She worked through school and, like Fidelity, she's meticulous, does her homework twice, and knows the value of saving for today and tomorrow. That's why Maggie chooses Fidelity ClearPath. It maximizes growth early, then automatically adjusts to be more conservative over time. Ask your advisor about ClearPath and relax. It's taken care of. Fidelity. Smart move.
Log on to cbc.ca, Canada's trusted online news source.
We're walking right past Bob Ray. So, Gerard, you're not going to Bob Ray, correct?
Well, yeah, I think we're about past.
So where is it then? Is it Stéphane?
Welcome back to CBC News Sunday. As we know, Gerard Kennedy was throwing his support behind Stéphane Dion. That's what propelled Dion to the top spot. We showed you a little earlier how their deal came together behind the scenes, but now we've got the man today who is being called the kingmaker, Gerard Kennedy. Mr. Kennedy, thank you for joining us. I'm not sure if we have a technical issue between here and Montreal. Can you hear me? No.
Carol, I don't think Gerard Kennedy can hear you right now.
Okay. All right. Evan, why don't you take this and we'll try and work out the technical issues, and I'll join you in progress if our technicians can work them out.
All right, Carol, or if you have something, just I'll on-pass a question here, and we'll try to work out these technical difficulties. But Gerard Kennedy, thanks so much for joining us today.
My pleasure.
I can hear from your voice it has been something of a long night, sir.
Well, it was more the long number of days, but yes, the voice will come back eventually.
Take us behind the scenes. We had a documentary earlier that took us behind the scenes. Why did you decide so early on to make a deal with Stéphane Dion and then throw your support behind him?
First of all, no deal with Stéphane Dion. I got nothing for my decision. I just met with all the candidates, and when I felt I wasn't going to be able to get the chance to renew the party, I picked the candidate I thought would have the next best chance.
So you're saying no deal, in other words, no promise of if you guys get into government, a cabinet post. There was a straight-on handshake.
It wasn't even a handshake. It was just my understanding, and I guess there was some mutual respect there in terms of how to carry the party forward, but it was not an arrangement, and it was my decision to trigger it. There was nothing in a previous understanding. It was just my evaluation of our not being able to do it and wanting to make sure somebody else could in terms of really renewing the party, and I'd come to believe that Stéphane Dion had that capacity uniquely among the other candidates.
And tell us why. Obviously, you had the two front runners, Bob Ray and Michael Ignatieff, who many of the senior members of the party had supported, and you saw for a while Bob Ray, many delegates started to move towards Bob Ray. He had momentum. You stuck to this notion of Stéphane Dion. Very few people gave him a shot, or you a shot. What was it about his policy that really made the decision for you?
Well, I have to say, it's more, he recognizes there's a problem. The party is needing to rebuild. I think that we have to go from there. He has a lot of, I think, integrity to stand up to some of the hard things that need to be done. And he had, I think, some focused ideas on the environment and other things that you can use as a driver for change. I think those are important ingredients. But again, it was a tough choice. Those are other very good candidates, Mr. Ray and Mr. Ignatieff. And so it wasn't a simple thing at all. It came about as a process.
All right, I'm just going to throw to Carole MacNeil now for a question. I don't know if you can hear her, but Carole, go ahead, Carole, with a question from Carole, and if Gerard Kennedy can hear you. If not, I'll just repeat the question. Carole, go ahead.
Okay, well, basically what I'm curious about is, let me give you a preview of how this is going to go now that you're launched into basically an election campaign, because we're in a minority government situation. We heard from James Moore and other Conservatives already, like Senator Marjorie Le Breton, that Stéphane Dion is a polarizing figure in Quebec, that he's unknown in Western Canada. He was there at the table when the sponsorship scandal was going on. He was there as Environment Minister as greenhouse gas emissions were going up by 35% in this country. Why did you support Stéphane Dion over all of the others?
Well, listen, I'm very glad to hear that that's Marjorie Le Breton's idea of Stéphane Dion, because it means they're going to be underestimating him, and they're going to get caught flat-footed. Stéphane Dion has impeccable integrity in the province of Quebec. He is not associated with any of the past problems. He has a capacity to connect with people, and I think out west, in fact, he has a fair bit of support in this leadership campaign and a demonstrated ability to bring people in. So I'm actually looking forward to how we rebuild. I think that Mr. Dion knows that we have steps in between now and the next election campaign, but I think Mr. Dion upsets some of the carefully laid plans of the Conservatives. They're not governing, they're just campaigning. And, you know, I'm looking forward to how we will prevail against them, but only after we've done a lot of things, and Stéphane Dion's going to roll up his sleeves to make those things happen.
Mr. Kennedy, on the point about Quebec, the general consensus is that, you know, if he had so much support in Quebec, as you say, if there's a lot of support for his views in Quebec, then why didn't one single cabinet minister from the past take flight into his camp?
Well, look, there were a lot of people from Quebec in Mr. Dion's camp originally. Many, vast majority from Mr. Ray's group joined them. So I think that's what matters. I think I can't explain where people who maybe made prior decisions ended up and what kind of ideas that they had. But let's just say that in Quebec, we haven't been doing that well lately. So anyone who says we want to continue the policies of the Liberal Party in Quebec probably doesn't have the answers. Mr. Dion is going to bring a fresh approach. He's going to be honest. He's going to be strong. And those kind of leaders have always been respected in Quebec.
Mr. Dion, Mr. Kennedy, one more question. You say there wasn't a deal between the two of you, but there clearly was an agreement. I mean, that was the word on the floor last night, that before you left, you didn't have to leave legally at the end of the second ballot. You chose to, and you chose to go to Stéphane Dion. What was the agreement between the two of you?
Well, as I said earlier, there's no agreement. I chose to go because I didn't feel I could win at that point, and I chose to go to the candidate that I wanted to support because I wanted the renewal of the party to take place. There's no arrangement there. I think there was some mutual respect between myself and Mr. Dion, and I acted on it in a way that I thought would most help the unity of the party and the objectives I got into this 10 months ago. And obviously my supporters felt the same way because 92 or 93 or 94% of them came with me to Mr. Dion.
Is this essentially a transformation of the Liberal Party, a rejection in some way of the old guard? You talk about, you know, yourself, Martha Hall Findlay, and some Stéphane Dion sort of crosses a line here. But is there, when you talk about party renewal, has this notion of sustainability become the new flag, the green flag of the Liberal Party of Canada?
Well, there was a lot of green in Mr. Dion's camp. That was their color, and look, I think that is one part of how we're going to move forward. I think
even with the past Liberal record, as Carole was mentioning on Kyoto, which was not good.
Mr. Dion had all of 6 months to try and pull that together. And look, again, people are going to have a choice of a Liberal government that struggled before and a new Liberal government that has a different way of approaching it, and a Conservative government that's doing nothing on Kyoto. That's with 8% of Canadians that don't even believe there's a problem with greenhouse gases. So, you know, I think we're going to be able to surmount with Mr. Dion some of the problems the Liberal government administration had in the last few years, because we're going to give people a clearer choice. Mr. Dion understands it's about implementation, it's about action, and that's the kind of party we have to be in people's minds.
Where are you going to run, just quickly before we go? What's riding? Will you go to La Pat?
Oh, look, we have a Churchill riding is held by a very good member in Tina Keeper. That's my home area in Manitoba. I have no specific idea where I might run. I've agreed, certainly from the beginning, to be part of the renewal of the party. And, you know, renewal doesn't mean rejecting the old. It means bringing in the new. And I'll be part of that. Other people will.
But you don't have a riding.
Across the country. I don't have a riding yet. But, you know, the riding I used to represent provincially, which is the same boundaries as a federal, is NDP held right now. And that's a possibility. We'll see what others want to do there. But, you know, right now I'm just glad that we've got a party united, a strong basis for fixing things. And people should know the Liberal Party took a daring choice. I think it was Mr. Dion, but it was the right choice.
You don't like the label kingmaker?
I don't think there's any second prizes in this. And, and Mr. Dion doesn't want to be seen as the king. He wants to do a different kind of politics.
Well, thank you so much, Gerard Kennedy, for coming in this morning after a big night. Appreciate it.
Thanks. Thanks for having me.
No problem.
Well, Gerard Kennedy is not the only person who's coming in after a big night. Coming up next, we'll ask our political panel what are the biggest challenges facing Stéphane Dion, in their opinion. And in our second hour, we will take a break from politics. We'll take you to Las Vegas to see if, this is like a big switch over here, to see if former porn stars can bring religion to the sex industry. Where partying makes headlines, does celebrity gossip pose a threat to real journalism?
Okay, I gotta go this way.
Listen, the New York Times doesn't fact-check their stories. We fact-check all our stories.
This weekend, December 2nd and 3rd only, it's the Rona Heavy-Duty Holiday Savings Event. You save up to 100% on any power, pneumatic, or hand tool in store. Savings so big only Rona can offer them. Don't forget, to be valid, coupons must be scratched by the cashier at participating Rona stores.
Imagine owning a piece of an office building in downtown Calgary, the hottest commercial market in North America. You don't have to be a multimillionaire to profit from this lucrative business, because every day, Concrete Equities offers partners like you the chance to invest in the most secure real estate, commercial real estate. The result? You diversify your portfolio, achieve maximum growth with minimal risk. There's no better time than now to invest in commercial real estate. Solidify your portfolio with Concrete Equities.
You can't see them, but they're everywhere. Protect your family with a revolutionary Germ Guardian. Only Germ Guardian uses hospital-proven technology to kill 99.9% of targeted airborne germs that cause colds, flu, strep throat, staph infections, and more. Keep your family healthy the safe, natural way. Get Germ Guardian at these fine retailers today or visit germguardian.com.
Фото, пожалуйста. Так?
That's a Bombardier.
Bombardier.
That's my train.
Thousands of Canadians are behind Bombardier projects, and they're proud of it.
When you get a cold, you can't always slow down, but you can get the cold symptom relief you need to keep going with NyQuil at night and DayQuil during the day. Feel better fast.
If you like CBC News, you will love CBC News Plus, exclusively with Express View Interactive TV from Bell. Look, while you're watching, you can get the latest headlines and then click for the whole story. It's great, huh, Gordon?
Oh, there's something about Brangelina.
Why do I even bother?
The key to your new 300C.
Thanks for the great deal.
Yeah, couldn't get any better. Well, actually.
Now during our holiday event, you get 3 for free. We'll make your first 3 months payments.
We're making this season even merrier with 3 for free. Purchase or lease an eligible new Chrysler, Jeep, or Dodge, and we'll make your first 3 months payments. Dash into your Chrysler, Jeep, Dodge retailer today.
A lot of difficulties, Mr. Harper. But at the same
Welcome back to CBC News Sunday. That was Stéphane Dion yesterday, moments after being elected leader of the Liberal Party of Canada. He's promising a lot of trouble for Stephen Harper, but can he deliver?
To find out, let's meet our political panel. Don Martin is a columnist with the National Post and feeling the love from last night. Greg Weston is a columnist from the Ottawa Sun. They were at the same party last night. And John Geddes, straight and sober, the Ottawa bureau chief of Maclean's magazine. Gentlemen, welcome bright. Carol, go ahead.
Don Martin, let me go to you first. How quickly, with the election of Stéphane Dion last night by the delegates, how quickly should Stephen Harper be thinking about trying to get an election called?
Well, you might as well go before they get to know him. I think to get to know Stéphane Dion, they might be surprised. He's not quite the revenge of the nerds, the return of the geek kind of person. He's got more street smarts and a little bit more coherence than that. But you might as well, why gamble on letting people get to know the guy? You might as well go with the first impression. So I think we might be heading in sooner rather than later.
Greg Weston, do you agree that to know Stéphane Dion is to love him?
I wouldn't say to know him to love him. I think Canadian politics took a slight turn for the bland yesterday, but I agree with Don. I think we're into an early election for one big reason that Stephen Harper knows full well from 2004, and that is a party that doesn't have time to get its act together is easy pickings in an election campaign. And as the delegates were leaving this hall yesterday, it was absolutely crystal clear that this is a very divided party at this point, and I think we're probably looking at an election very early spring.
John Geddes, do you think that if you agree that if you agree with Don and Greg, do you think that at the end of the day we're going to see an election sooner rather than later? And do you think that Stéphane Dion, the Liberal Party, really expect that anyway? They need the time out to restructure?
I think the big question mark here is, where does Harper think Quebec now stands? Quebec has always been the keystone in his strategy for getting a majority or now holding his minority. So I think they're going to try to read the wind, figure out if Dion is as weak in Quebec as some people think he is, or whether some of the traditional Quebec fallback position of supporting a homegrown candidate rises to the fore. If that's the case, if Dion looks stronger in Quebec than his critics would say, then I don't think we're into a quick election scenario here at all.
Don Martin, let me ask you about one of the significant, and I see it as emerging as a theme, and John Duffy, one of the Liberal strategists, said to me, we are now a party that has chosen a message and a messenger, and the message and the messenger are green. It's never been a ballot box question, ever, in any Western democracy. The Liberals have gone radically into this, and maybe, is it a dangerous move for them to try to really run on this issue, and can they beat Harper on it?
Well, it's smart in one sense, in that Harper has the environment as Achilles' heel. I mean, the guy's hot air policy, if you want, is full of exactly that, hot air. But the problem is that why would you go into a ground that really the New Democrats and the surging Green Party are already trying to stake that claim? I mean, it's going to be an awful crowded little competition if everyone was trying to say, I'm the Green Party. No, I'm the Green Party. So I think you have to be more than that. I mean, and I think Dion's going to be more than that. I don't think he's going to sit there and go Kyoto, Kyoto, Kyoto for the next 3-4 months till he gets an election.
Well, Greg, what about you? He obviously has been very rigid on his support for that. Will Canadians, and polls are showing that this is emerging as somewhat of an issue, come election time, will this stay as an issue, or will the old health care, foreign policy, all those other, GST cuts emerge as the key questions?
Well, I think this is one of those trick questions where the pollsters will tell you that it's really a top-of-mind question, but the strategists will caution that this election, very like most elections, at some point will become a personality thing as well. And I think especially the contrast between Stephen Harper and Stéphane Dion is stark. Two very clear choices for Canadian voters. And Stéphane Dion is vulnerable also on the environment file. I mean, the Liberal government, when he was environment minister, didn't exactly shine on that file.
John? Evan, on this point of environment, though, we were talking a minute ago about uniting the Liberal Party and the problem that Dion has there. One thing about the environmental issue, even if it doesn't end up being a ballot question in the next federal election, it's a terrific unifier in the Liberal Party right now. Lots of the people in the Ignatieff camp thought that was the issue. Obviously, Scott Bryson, an also-ran candidate. Environment seems to me to be the one that everyone can kind of rally behind now. So Dion may be able to use that to his advantage, just to pull the party together a bit, make it feel like it has a purpose, even prior to a campaign starting.
Carol?
But if Quebec is the key at the end of the day, let's say environment does what it's always done and disappeared during an election campaign and at the ballot box in terms of a ballot question, it becomes what kind of support can they get in Quebec, as John, you pointed out. Greg, let me put this question to you. Stéphane Dion sat at the table as Intergovernmental Affairs Minister when the sponsorship scandal was going on. He was the minister from Quebec and dealing with the Clarity Act and the whole issue of Quebec. Does he not face the same problems, the same set of problems that Paul Martin faced, is he not at risk of being on the defensive, saying, I didn't know anything about that, and you can't ask me those kinds of questions because I wasn't really in the loop?
Well, you know, there's a reason that 3 out of the 4 front-runners in this campaign had not been even members of the Liberal Party up until a year ago, and it was exactly that, to try and put that whole sponsorship scandal behind them. Stéphane Dion, I think, has the one thing going for them is that I don't think anybody really questions that he was involved in it. But yes, you're right. I mean, in the heat of an election campaign, nothing is stopping Stephen Harper's spin machine from asking the question, where was Stéphane Dion the whole time this was going on? It just raises doubts again, but I don't think that's going to be an overwhelming issue in this next election campaign.
Okay, Don Martin.
Carol.
Yep.
Okay, go ahead, Carol. Sorry.
No, very quickly.
I was just going to say, I think. Okay, very quick. I think the Liberal brand is already severely tarnished in Quebec. Look at the last by-election. This party cannot come back in Quebec. The best that even Dion can probably deliver is holding on to what it's got. Stéphane Dion's not the rescuer for the party in Quebec.
Okay, Don, what is Ed Stelmach going to deliver in Alberta?
Holy... I mean, this is a guy, everyone should have started from 3rd place yesterday. That's what Ed did in Alberta. Shock and amazement. I mean, this is a guy that's going to be, I mean, he's very common sense, folksy, but he's not Ralph Klein cuddly. This is a guy that's going to perhaps surprise a lot of people, but people are waking up this morning going, Ed who? Because he's not very well known.
Right, and what will he deliver? Let's take your expertise, give people an idea of what he's going to deliver to the rest of the country, different from Ralph Klein or similar.
Well, he's they call him Steady Eddie for a reason. This is a man that does not have much flash. He doesn't try and seek the headline. He's not into photo ops. He's very much a common sense kind of guy. He's talking about economic development in a very low key way. So you're not going to see Ralph Bucks like we had with Klein blanketing the province. He's going to bring, I think, an adult supervision to the Premier's office, which is something they've really needed for some time.
Okay. We have about 30 seconds left. I'm going to give John Geddes and also Greg Weston a quick last comment on that. Coming out of Alberta and out of Montreal, we seem to see an electorate or a delegate selection of people going for the low key.
Well, yeah, sure. Why not? I mean, this is a sort of feels like a transitional moment in Canadian politics, and
okay,
and there's no reason. And there's no reason for them not to feel like it's a transitional moment.
Okay, transitional moment. Sorry. We have to make a transitional moment. We're out of time. Gentlemen, I'm so sorry. Don Martin, Greg Weston, John Geddes, thank you.
Surfboard to skateboard. A high-flying phenomenon takes American pop culture by storm.
We were the guys that would have been chosen last to succeed.
The Sundance Award-winning documentary, Dogtown and Z-Boys, tonight at 10 on CBC Newsworld.
True coffee connoisseurs know the only way to make really great coffee is to grind your own beans just moments before the brewing process. The Cuisinart Grind and Brew Thermal Coffee Maker does just that. With its revolutionary technology, you can grind your favorite beans and enjoy the freshest, most flavorful coffee in seconds. And with the Grind and Brew's Thermal Carafe, you can be assured that your coffee will retain its original freshly brewed flavor longer. It makes it all easy, makes it all automatic. Absolutely the best coffee you can make at home. The Cuisinart Grind and Brew Thermal, available at fine stores everywhere.
You've been looking forward to a celebration this big all year. It's Red Lobster's Big Seafood Festival, a feast of new combinations of our biggest seafood. Indulge in rock lobster tail, king crab, and jumbo garlic shrimp. Only at Red Lobster.
What do you know about computers?
My daughter definitely knows how to use a computer better than I do half the time, and she's 3.5.
Hi, I'm John Scherer, CEO and founder of Video Professor. I've been hearing comments like that for over 18 years now. Listen to this.
I did the Excel, and it was a lot of fun. Really? I had a real good time. I learned a lot.
The difference, just 1 hour with one of my CDs, and they're easy to use. The CD plays like a video on your computer screen. Just follow the step-by-step instructions. And if you call right now, I'll send you any lesson of your choice free. The reason I can do this is because I know that once you try my product, you'll come back to us for all your computer learning needs. If you can't learn for any reason, I'll not only refund your shipping and processing, but I'll send you $10. So learn a new skill in less than an hour. Try my product.
I think that's the most fun I've had learning something about the computer.
To get your free computer learning CD, you must call now. Call 1-800-643-7346.
This weekend, December 2nd and 3rd only, it's the Rona Heavy-Duty Holiday Savings Event. You save up to 100% on any power, pneumatic, or hand tool in store. Savings so big only Rona can offer them. Don't forget, to be valid, coupons must be scratched by the cashier at participating Rona stores.
The all-new BMW X5. With room for 7, we've expanded on a great idea.
World-class German engineering. Braun 360 Complete, the world's first electric shaver with the expertise of Gillette blade technology. For Braun's closest, most comfortable shave ever, it even cleans and renews itself. Braun. Precision, control, perfection.
A mob hit gone bad.
And all of a sudden I felt my hair move and then realized there were bullets.
A mobster turned informant.
He's the one that's going to order my death. A man with no heart.
On the run with the rat. The Fifth Estate. Tonight at 7 Eastern on CBC Newsworld.
Hello everyone, I'm Evan Solomon coming to you from the Palais de Congrès here in Montreal.
And I'm Carole MacNeil. Welcome to the second hour of CBC News Sunday.
Of course, I'm coming to you from Montreal today because, of course, this is where the momentous Liberal Leadership Convention was held just last night. You can see right behind me they are tearing it all down here, and as the debris comes down here, the race begins to kick off elsewhere. But this was not the only news in the world. Of course, another big news, the situation in Iraq continues to deteriorate. But what was this week's top, but despite all that, the Liberal leadership race, the situation in Iraq, what was the top internet search on yahoo.com? This is almost hard to believe. It was Britney Spears. Millions of people were desperate to see Britney Spears partying with Paris Hilton without any panties. I can't believe that sentence just exited my mouth, but that's the kind of alliteration that you get in the tabloid culture. For a growing legion of people, this kind of thing is what really counts as news. The tabloid world of celebrity gossip is a multi-billion-dollar industry with dozens of magazines, television shows, and websites all dedicated to stories about, say, Tom Cruise's latest nuptials, or Brad Pitt and Angelina Jolie's latest child, or Madonna's latest scandal. Now, no one knows this formula better than Bonnie Fuller. The famous Canadian publisher moved down to the United States and there almost single-handedly has taken gossip to a new level of success. As the current head of American Media Inc., Fuller is the brains behind the National Enquirer and Star Magazine, which sells 1.5 million copies a week. And to put that into perspectives, that's as many magazines as Time. So why do so many people care so much about this kind of fluff? And why would you spend your life trying to promote it? I sat down with Bonnie Fuller to find out. Why do you think people are so obsessed with celebrities' lives?
They're fascinated by celebrities, I think, for a few reasons. I mean, first of all, they see them on TV. They see them in the movies. They see them a lot. They feel that they know them. They almost sort of feel like they're part of their circle of friends. However, they're richer, they're more famous, they're more gorgeous. They marry and date other rich, gorgeous, famous people. They live in this, you know, sort of fantasy world that people want to know about. You know, since the dawn of time, people have been interested in the celebrities of their own society.
But is it too much now? I mean, you know the classic criticism, the kind of we are amusing ourselves to death. And are you kind of leading the charge in that kind of direction? That, you know, forget about the real issues, just pay attention to the circus going on?
Well, I think we have a gene that makes us fascinated by the celebrities of our time because, I mean, really, since like the earliest of human civilization, people have always focused on on wondering what the leaders and the wealthiest, the most influential people in their society were. And for most of time, that was royalty. And so now, here in America, we don't have royalty. we have celebrities.
Do you ever get bored with it? I mean, did you ever come home and say to your husband, Michael, if I have one more Brad Pitt story, I'm just going to pull my hair out? Or do you just kind of love it?
Well, I mean, how can you get bored of the world of celebrity these days? I mean, they just do the most unbelievable things that you could never make up in your wildest dreams. I mean, you could never predict that Tom Cruise would get himself engaged after a month of dating Katie Holmes and announce it after going up to the Eiffel Tower, then jump on couches.
I know.
You know, you can't make this stuff up.
And Bonnie Fuller insists that nothing in her magazines like Star is made up. She claims she's taken the rules of journalism and simply applied them to the Star's facts. It's a formula she first applied to Us magazine when she revamped the title back in the early 90s, increasing its sales by more than 100%. She'd done that earlier for magazines like Glamour, Cosmopolitan, Marie Claire, and YM. As a self-proclaimed Toronto-born geek who's never felt at home in the high world of fashion, Fuller nonetheless is now one of the world's highest-paid editors-in-chief, earning around $3 million a year. But has her success come at the cost of taking journalism in general down market? When you say the secret new diet pills, who's taking them and who's who, this is true?
Absolutely.
In other words, you guys have sources that, like any other journalistic organization?
Of course we do. We have not
don't
just...
say it like that. I mean, you know, some don't, right?
Well, we do.
Okay.
We always have multiple sources. If we have a story that is, that is like, a really tough story, and we're concerned because we're breaking something that's extremely sensitive, we often sign up our sources. They will sign legal documents attesting to the truth of what they're saying. They will agree to go to court and testify in court. We also polygraph some of our sources.
Really?
Yes.
I guess I'm asking because should we be reading this as journalism or for fun? That's the thing.
It's
in other words,
both.
should we require Bonnie Fuller to have a source? Like, here's one story on Brad's big secret. He still loves Jen. I mean, is that true? I mean, should we read that? Should I apply the kind of journalistic test to you on that let's say the New York Times does?
Listen, the New York Times doesn't fact-check their stories. We fact-check all our stories. Lawyers don't read every New York Times story. Lawyers read every single story and caption that goes into Star magazine. We take this very, very seriously.
So that story, now I could go and say to my wife, do you know, the truth is Brad really does still love Jennifer Aniston. That's true?
We stand by all the stories that we print in Star, and there are so many stories that we have broken that have been denied by publicists and, of course, turn out to be true. I'll give you an example. We ran a story saying that Madonna was going to be adopting a child in Malawi, where she was visiting, and of course it was denied. Well, she indeed has adopted a child there, so we're completely right.
How do you cultivate sources like that?
Well, I can't tell you all our secrets.
Let's give me one idea.
We get sources just like every other journalist gets sources. You work on it, and you make relationships with people.
Fuller does a lot of everything, and it's the theme of her book, The Joys of Much Too Much. Her secret to success, having a full life, a high-level career, a solid marriage, and yes, having kids too. She has all three and says the balancing act is worth the rewards. Despite the criticism of what she's done, Fuller has tried to turn her career into a role model for young women. You know, you've faced the criticism of the journalism and all that, but you know, you've raised 4 kids. It is really remarkable, and your kids have had challenges. How did you balance this in the much too much life that sounds glamorous? One of your kids had leukemia, one of them had a brain tumor at the age of 3. How did you balance all that, Bonnie?
Well, it's really hard. You mean, you don't balance it. You deal with it, you cope with it, you try and get through it, and you do your very best. I mean, those were, nobody can foresee. I mean, like I said, life is tough. It can throw some real challenges at you. And I mean, on one hand, we just feel incredibly fortunate that both our daughters made it through and that they're very healthy. And when we were coping with those situations, we had to rely, so much on the support of our friends and our family.
What do you think the Bonnie Fuller gift is?
I love what I do. I do think that I'm able to relate to other women. I don't feel really different than they are. Yeah. I like my readers. I want to make them happy. I want to entertain them. I want to give them something that they're really going to love.
Evan, so does, but I forgot what I was going to say to you. That's
You're
quite
so
the interview.
caught up in it.
Yeah, I was caught. Does Brad really love Jen? I wanted to know.
Well, this is the thing, you know, Carol, you know, obviously in our job, often what we do is, you know, we report bad news, and there's a lot of criticism about that. When Bonnie Fuller says, I like to give people joy and make people happy, you know, it's easy to criticize tabloid journalism, and I don't pick up this stuff often, but I don't mean to be snobbish about it, but what she said really hit home to me. She wants to entertain people and make people feel good, and there's something to be said for that. And you know, not only that, the other thing that really struck me about Bonnie Fuller, and we can get to the criticism of the down market tabloid journalism in a second, but she really has become a role model for women. This, you can have it all as a woman, a great career, very successful, and a family person. And so in some senses, her mission, I came in very skeptical, and I came out rather impressed.
Yeah, but at the end of the day, what is she selling? You know what I mean? She is one of the foremost editors of Gossip magazine. So what is she selling? And I guess equally important is, what are people buying?
Well, this is the thing, you know, it's easy to judge and come down on it and say, you know, my God, you're talking about Britney Spears, and it's easy to kind of get all highbrow about it, but people have always been fascinated with stars and celebrities. It goes back hundreds of years. People like that stuff, and what she's selling, she says, is delight. She's selling happiness. She's selling a pleasure that people want to check out of, you know, the war in Iraq and the Liberal Convention, and they just want a bit of the fluff because it makes them happy. They may find role models. They may find something in there that makes them, you know, the soap opera drama, and that's what she's selling, and she does a darn good job of it. And the question is, should we judge that as negative?
Well, I mean, I think you already have, because you've called it fluff, right? You said we shouldn't actually poo-poo it and look down on it, but then you called it fluff in the next sentence. And I'm going to suggest to you that maybe this is legitimate. Maybe the concept of human relations and human behavior in particular under a microscope is a sociological study that we would all do well to look for more of, even in our everyday mainstream journalism. What do you think?
Well, I'm trying to catch up to you because I'm not sure where you're circling around.
I know, I've been going off on tangents all morning.
But you know, just let me tell you, calling it fluff, it is fluff, and she wouldn't deny that. I mean, she's not trying to suggest that it has the same kind of impact as, you know, investigative journalism. However, the question is fluff important? Is fluff got to have a role to play, and should we be ashamed of our love of it? Look, we all like a candy bar. So I don't think it's necessarily a pejorative to call it that. I will say, though, Carol, look, all of us, you know, we all know about these Tom Cruise and his wedding, and that stuff there's something great to see our own problems writ large, and also how people who live in this bubble of celebrity also have human things. And that's her big thing, you know. Her great insight was not to show celebrities as gods, but to show celebrities as human beings. Lindsay Lohan getting a coffee. You know, see, she gets a coffee too. Tom Cruise gets a flat tire. See, he gets flat tires too. So just to show that humanity is universal may have an important role. The question is,
that's all I was
what
saying.
Are you into?
That's all I was saying when I said it's a good sociological study. I mean, that it's not in particular.
But Carol, let me throw something to you. 90% of her readers are women, and I talked about this to her. Why does this stuff appeal to women? And that's a question that I don't know an answer to, but why are 90% of the readers of her magazines women?
Well, I don't know. I mean, you could answer it. Probably I'm in a slightly better position to answer it than you. I really don't know. I mean, I'm only one, so I can't speak for all women because women think in diverse ways, as you know. But I don't know. I don't have an answer for that.
Yeah, I think it's an interesting thing, and one of we had this conversation that she said, yeah, you're right, and 90% of people who read, you know, Sports Illustrated are men.
Yeah.
And these are just the demographics.
Yeah, I know. I do have sort of an answer, but I hesitate to say it because I'm afraid that I'm going to perpetuate a stereotype. But women are very interested in relational things. We're very interested in our relationships to other people and their relationships to us, and process along the way is very important as opposed to the end game all the time. So maybe that has something to do with it, the concept of getting to know how people behave in certain circumstances and getting to know people. Maybe that has something to do with it.
Yeah, it's a real great question. So, I mean, we should ask our audience, because you're going to be smarter than us on this issue. What do you think? Is mainstream journalism going down market with celebrity fever? Or why do women like this kind of magazine more, and why do men like the sports magazines more? Equally sort of fluffy things and yet equally important and equally popular. So we'd love to hear how you think about this. You can write to us at CBC News Sunday, Box 500, Station A, Toronto, Ontario, M5W1E6. Our email address is sunday@cbc.ca. Online, you can reach us anytime. Our website address is cbc.ca/Sunday. Carol and I will probably debate this till the cows come home, won't we, MacNeil?
To the cows come home. Our conversation's really going to the dogs first, though. You know, because later in the show, we're going to ask you what risks you're taking when you smooch your pooch. But coming up next, you've heard about the officers of the law raiding a marijuana grow-op, but why would they descend on a dairy farm?
The only thing we do is we farm, and we want to produce a good product for our families which are connected to the farm.
The Michelin X-Ice tire with Winterflex rubber compound. It helps turn skidding into stopping. Michelin, a better way forward.
The all-new BMW X5. With room for 7, we've expanded on a great idea.
So this is Christmas, and what have you done? Another year over, and the new one just begun.
A new year is about to begin. What better time to start helping a child who may not make it without you? Please, call this number now. You'll receive information about sponsoring a child through Christian Children's Fund of Canada. You can help provide a child in need, along with that child's family and community, with food, medical care, schooling, a future.
Christmas, for weak and for strong, the rich and the poor ones, the road is so long.
Call Christian Children's Fund of Canada now for information and with no obligation. Within 10 days of your call, you will receive the photo and story of a child in need and information on how to become a sponsor. A simple phone call, so little to do, but to a child who needs your help, it is the most meaningful Christmas present you may ever give. Call now and sponsor by pre-authorized check or by credit card and receive your choice of free gift, our way of saying thank you for helping a child in need. Your generous contribution will give a child a chance. Please call Christian Children's Fund of Canada today.
Welcome back to CBC News Sunday. That was the scene 12 days ago in Ontario's Grey County. Provincial authorities showed up at Michael Schmidt's dairy farm with a search warrant that let them seize anything to do with milk. You see, all milk sold in Canada must be pasteurized, heated to a specific temperature to kill the bacteria in it. But Schmidt had been using a legal loophole to distribute raw milk. His clients say it's healthier than pasteurized. Today, Schmidt is on his 11th day of a hunger strike to protest the raid. His only nutrition, a daily glass of cold, white controversy.
I'm Michael Schmidt. I'm a dairy farmer in Grey County since 1983. The current legislation requires that all the milk is pasteurized, which goes on the market, except when you have your own cow and drink the milk from your own cow, as every farmer can do. We started in the early 90s as a response to consumers coming to us looking for raw milk because they had real trouble digesting pasteurized milk. So we were aware of that situation, but realized also if they own their cow, then they might, they should have the right to do that. We have about 150 to 200 families connected to this farm on a contractual base that they own cows here. So every cow share member pays roughly $300 if they want to own a quarter of a cow. Then they're entitled to a quarter of the average production per cow in our herd. We have a fairly high percentage of young families, concerned parents regarding their children. We have people who had severe problems, health problems, have that milk, and cancer people. And then we have the so-called average Joe wanting our milk. All of them are totally confident that the milk coming from here is safe. Our barn is always open for them. They can come in. Our barn is absolutely clean. The cows are healthy. The milk facility is up to standard, totally up to standard. And there is a total trust connection between the farm and the consumer or the families. It's an interesting, if you relate it to the issue, what effect has actually the raw milk culture on the farming culture? It reconnects people to the farm in a wonderful way. And in Europe, you can go in any kind of corner store and you can pick up your raw milk right there. Because it's regulated. Public health officials should, when they're concerned about the danger of raw milk, should start taking raw vegetables, raw meat, raw chicken, all off the shelves and make sure that they're safe, because it's not much different. They're really not doing their homework. They're closing their eyes in regard to the studies of safety of raw milk. I think there's a big problem is the dairy board, because they have a very tight control over the milk. Because it's a food issue, the only thing I can do, make a decision for myself and say, well, I go on a hunger strike and try to resolve the situation, because otherwise they don't take you serious. Well, I'm drinking 1 glass a day during that hunger strike, and I think that keeps me going for quite a while, because of its completeness of food. There are 3 conditions attached, and that means that the return of everything they have seized, return to the farm, so that we can start functioning and make a living. The second thing is that we need to be reimbursed for what damage they did, and the third thing is that they leave this farm alone. I'm open for testing, I have no problems with that, but I will not end my hunger strike until these 3 conditions are met. You see, it's a basic issue of freedom of choice, that people crying for freedom to decide for themselves what they want to put in their bodies. What I would like to see is that in a very human way, government and farmers sit down together. It's very clear that we need to establish raw milk regulations for the production of and delivery of safe raw milk. The market has changed, the consciousness of people has changed, and so I'm optimistic, actually.
So is this an issue of public safety or personal choice? For the other side of the story, we're now joined by the official who put a stop to Schmidt's raw milk operation, or trying to. Dr. Hazel Lynn is the medical officer of health for Grey Bruce, and she joins me now in studio. You were part of these raids on Michael Schmidt's farm, yes?
My staff was there. I personally was not there.
Right, okay. But you believe that these raids are essential. What about his point? In Europe, they do it. Why not do it here?
If you look at the experience in Europe, there is still more milk-borne related disease related to raw milk than there is in Canada. And do we want to go there is my question. Look at the Scottish example where when they stopped allowing raw milk, their deaths and incidences to do with raw milk outbreaks dropped almost to zero. And they had 4 deaths of children in the early 80s from raw milk.
But here in Canada, and in particular Mr. Schmidt's farm, he's been selling raw milk for a while. There seems to be no problem with the raw milk that he's selling. Perhaps it's a matter of getting the right regulations in place.
Except that basically, no matter how you regulate, milk is a hazardous product because it grows bacteria so well. So many times milk will be fine, you can drink that, but the next time you don't know. And the 4 kids who were injured 18 months ago, they felt that the milk was fine. It had been before, but we can't tell unless you check every single glass. Is that one growing bacteria?
What's the risk?
Death or injury due to the infective organism. There's many organisms, and that's the reason why Ontario insists on pasteurized milk since 1938.
And we're talking about what specifically inside the milk? That could be there, that could be dangerous.
E. coli, 157H7, which is the one that caused the Walkerton outbreak, and it can cause renal failure. There's many other bugs that can also grow. Campylobacter is a bug that has infected many children in Europe from raw milk. It gives a nasty bout of diarrhea, and yeah, you don't generally die from it, but immunosuppressed people could. Bovine TB was the reason in many ways why pasteurization of milk was started in Ontario so many years ago. And we don't see that anymore, and people forget that that was a huge killer of kids.
The flip side now is we're into a movement where people want the vitamins and minerals. They're looking for a healthier lifestyle for themselves, right? Would you agree with that?
Many times they are, but they need to look at if they want to go back to nature, we're mammals. We really aren't meant to drink milk once we're weaned from our mother's breast. Cow's milk is for calves. It's really not for humans. And I think, look, if you want to go all natural, you breastfeed your kids as long as they are growing neurological tissue, someplace between age 3 and 4. Most of the world doesn't see milk after that time. So nature is nature, and you can't just take one piece and not another. Milk, I think, is a good and wholesome food, but it needs to be clean.
Yeah, but the problem with pasteurization is it removes all of the vitamins and minerals.
Oh, it absolutely does not. That's not true.
No, it's not true. That's a myth?
It's the same calcium content. It's the same except for a few of the B vitamins, a little bit of C vitamins, which is 10% reduced because of pasteurization. So there's some smaller chain proteins that may be affected, but they are, again, affected in your GI tract. So if you look at the researchers who are actually looking at this, the one's quote was that the only difference between pasteurized and non-pasteurized is the lack of pathogenic bacteria in pasteurized.
What about the...
the taste has to do with the fat content. And when you buy milk in the store, it's regulated as it's 2% or 5% or whatever kind of fat. If you drink full-fat milk, it tastes like a milkshake, so of course it tastes better. If you drank full-fat milk that's pasteurized in taste tests, people can't tell the difference.
And that's what raw milk is. It's full.
Yeah,
full
they don't separate out the fat at all.
Okay. What about those who say this is a matter of freedom of choice, that this is just the government trying to regulate and protect the milk industry the way it is now, but that people really deserve to have their own personal choice about whether they want to take the risk or not, or whether they want to drink raw milk?
Well, this is kind of the ultimate public health question. Where do you limit someone's personal choices for the public good? And I think we make people wear helmets, we make them wear seatbelts because we know that's good for the public, even if you don't want to. So we do limit people's personal choice in many ways. And to me, this is that. I mean, you have a personal choice. If you want raw milk, you can go live on a farm and raise your own cow. But to sell it and to distribute it to somebody else is not healthy. It's almost impossible to make it healthy, and I don't think we should be going there.
Technically, those people are raising a quarter of their own cow.
Well, no, they're not, because it has to be distributed from Grey County into the cities where it is, and that distribution allows the time for the bacteria to grow, and that to me is the really risky part of this whole process. The milk distribution system gives the time. 20 minutes is all it takes to double the amount of E. coli. That's a lot of E. coli in a short time. Most of the European situation have a farm gate procedure where you actually buy it from the farm. So the closer you are to the udder of the cow, the less likely you'll have overwhelming amounts of pathogenic bacteria.
Would you support it under those circumstances?
No. I don't think there's a reason why we need to support it. We have a perfectly safe product produced by dairy farmers who watch the temperatures, who carefully monitor the bacteria contents. Our dairy industry is very, very safe.
Dr. Hazel,
why not?
Thank you very much for joining us today.
Thank you very much for having me.
Okay, later in the show, we'll ask, how dirty is your dog? And coming up next. How do these missionaries bring the Word of God to the world of XXX?
Amen. Amen. We have different things that we pass out to the men as well, like DVDs, which naturally they assume they're pornography, but they're not.
The champagne glasses may be familiar, but have you ever seen a car that can park itself? Presenting the magnificent new Lexus LS 460. Pursue the moment. Lexus.
Gus thinks it's his job to protect me from the world.
A love like this deserves new I Am Small and Toy. It's concentrated nutrition with more protein, so little dogs have the energy to do what they love for life.
If you're remodeling your kitchen, you can't afford to miss this information. It's the information retailers don't want you to see.
One of the rooms we're most proud of is our kitchen. We were able to purchase a lot of things that maybe otherwise we wouldn't have been able to purchase. This particular tap retails at around $750. We were able to purchase it for less than $350.
The kitchen is my favorite room of the house, and just about everything in here is from Direct Buy, starting with all of our cabinetry.
When it came to price, we were looking at $33,000 for the cabinetry alone. With Direct Buy, including the custom work that was done, we paid approximately $21,000 for this kitchen.
Welcome to our kitchen. This is our pride and joy, and it was totally gutted and started from scratch, so we really enjoy this room now.
I had priced things because I wanted to know what things were going to cost me. The backsplash was about $18 a square foot, and we ended up paying
just over
$11.72 a square foot. So that's a considerable saving when you see where I was covering.
Imagine paying insider prices for items like kitchen cabinets, plumbing fixtures, countertops, and appliances. There's now a way to buy virtually everything you need at prices you never imagined possible. No store markups, just top quality, name brand products. Call the number on your screen now to receive your free insider's guide to buying direct. Plus, you'll also receive a free visitor's pass for an exclusive tour of your local Direct Buy showroom. As a Direct Buy member, you'll have access to products from over 500 major name brand manufacturers and their authorized distributors. And they all come with the same manufacturer's warranty you find in the stores. Call the number on your screen right now to get started buying the Direct Buy way. Stop paying retail and become part of Direct Buy, the private, members-only showroom and design center. Don't wait another minute. Pick up the phone and call now.
The winning team needs something quick and tasty. Lily Del Deli, smoked chicken, fat-free turkey, turkey pepperoni, and can't forget the oven-tender turkey. Quality deli, made to meet their high standards and great taste.
Thanks, Coach.
It's not just deli, it's Lily Dale.
Welcome back to CBC News Sunday. Last month, Nevada's highest court ruled that lap dances are illegal. Now, this is very big news in Las Vegas, where the adult entertainment section of the phone book runs more than 100 pages long. Now, it's very easy to contact a sex worker in Las Vegas, but it's a lot more difficult to reach out to them because many of them need help. But that's exactly what some former porn stars are doing in the name of God. Take a look.
group of women that evangelize to the sex industry. So our real goal is to help people in the sex industry start a relationship with God. I did what would be called softcore porn and fetish porn. I didn't enjoy it. It was definitely almost just going through the, it's going through the motions and trying to put on a performance, but I wasn't enjoying it. It wasn't something that I was doing there because I really wanted to do it. It was for money. We are going to go to a strip club, and we have our friend Pastor Robert who's going too. He's going with us. But he's going to go in the male side and talk to the men about God, the male strippers. And then we're going to go in the female side and talk to the girls about God. Like, we're really cool and casual, so we're just going to go in, roll in there, hang out, see who we can meet, see what girls we can meet, and then pay them for their time too. Like, if we hang out and talk to a girl, we'll pay her for her time and then tell her about God and try to leave her with, some information on how to contact us. And then hopefully we'll hear from her one day.
As Heather and Lori go out, Father, that they may preach the gospel to these girls, Father, and that they may begin to get into a relationship with you. And everyone who agreed can say, Amen.
Dear Father, we come to you, Lord, and we just thank you so much. I thank you so much for these beautiful women, Lord, that you've put here. And I just ask that you would bless them in their future, that you would guide them, that you would be a strong part in their life. And there's nothing in their lives they could ever do that you wouldn't forgive them for, Lord. We thank you so much for this time. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen. Amen. So we have different ways, and we buy a booth at the porn convention where we pass out Holy Hottie shirts wrapped in Bibles. And then we have different things that we pass out to the men as well, like DVDs, which naturally they assume they're pornography, but they're not. They're anti-porn.
They had free shirts, and I was like, why not? And then they're telling me about Jesus and how it's good for dancers to go to church, and I agree with that because I'm a dancer, so why not?
Give me this shirt and this Bible and say, like, if I ever wanted to go to church, they would help me find a church to go to, or I wouldn't be, like, rejected because I was a porn star.
If you remember, God had a prostitute standing at his feet when he died, and 11 disciples ran away, and a prostitute stayed. And he, on several occasions, reached out to women with sexual sin. Until someone clears all that up for me and shows me that I'm interpreting it the wrong way, then I'm going to do the exact thing that he did. And that's what I feel we're doing. We go into the nightclubs, we go into the strip clubs, we go into the porn convention, we go and we dine with them on many occasions. A big thing we like to do is invite them to dinner and sit with them and listen to them and talk to them just the same way he did. He did not wait in the synagogue for them to come. He never did that. He went to them, and that's what we do.
Please stay with us. We'll be right back with this cautionary tale. A kiss is just a kiss, except with the family dog.
We love our pets, but when they lick our faces, we have to realize that we're taking on a little bit of risk.
That's my boy. I've got to stop French kissing the dog.
You need the full story. We're live on CBC News, The National, led by Chief Correspondent Peter Mansbridge. Weeknights at 9 and 11 on CBC Newsworld.
Gus thinks it's his job to protect me from the world.
A love like this deserves new I Am Small and Toy. It's concentrated nutrition with more protein, so little dogs have the energy to do what they love for life.
I'm Floyd Red Crow Westerman. If you suffer from joint and muscle pain, there is help. You can get fast relief with Lakota. It has helped me, it can help you. Try Lakota. You have nothing to lose but the pain.
Imagine owning a piece of an office building in downtown Calgary, the hottest commercial market in North America. You don't have to be a multimillionaire to profit from this lucrative business, because every day, Concrete Equities offers partners like you the chance to invest in the most secure real estate, commercial real estate. The result? You diversify your portfolio, achieve maximum growth with minimal risk. There's no better time than now to invest in commercial real estate. Solidify your portfolio with Concrete Equities.
Why spend all day making gourmet potatoes? McCain oven roasts. Lightly seasoned roast potatoes, ready in no time. It's gourmet, the easy way.
I used to believe thunder was caused by angels going bowling.
I used to believe you should only have French fries once in a while. We sure believe some crazy things.
McCain Super Fries with 0 trans fat. Believe in fries again.
Wouldn't it be nice if you could have $20,000 to $500,000 in tax-free cash?
Wouldn't it be nice?
So you could help your children buy their first home?
Wouldn't it be nice?
Travel more often?
Wouldn't it
Or pay off debts and enjoy a little extra spending money? Well, if you're 60 or older, a CHIP home income plan can help you turn some of the equity in your home into $20,000 to $500,000 in tax-free cash.
There's no payment required, and you maintain control and ownership of your home.
Call now for your free Wouldn't It Be Nice guide. It explains how to unlock the value in your home with a CHIP home income plan by turning up to 40% of the equity in your home into tax-free cash. And never make a payment until you choose to move or sell.
Wouldn't it be nice?
Wouldn't it be nice to unlock some of the value in your home and enjoy life on your terms?
Call 1-877-541-2447 now for your free guide.
After suffering a traumatic head injury, doctors told him his old life would be gone forever. Boy, were they wrong.
There's no way I will be a vegetable.
Brain Damaged, Take 2, Tuesday at 10 on CBC Newsworld. From surfboard to skateboard, a high-flying phenomenon takes American pop culture by storm.
We were the guys that would have been chosen last to succeed.
The Sundance Award-winning documentary, Dogtown and Z-Boys, tonight at 10 on CBC Newsworld.
Can you give Mommy a kiss? Come on. That's my baby. That's a good boy.
Yes. Welcome back to CBC News Sunday. The U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service estimates that 650 million animals were smuggled into the country over the last 3 years. Officials warn that some exotic animals might be carrying equally exotic diseases with the potential for a virulent outbreak. But as Sunday's Peter Walsh discovered, you don't need a koala or a kinkajou to make you sick. You can pick up all sorts of things from your own lovable mutt.
The love people share for their pets has a storied history.
Grandpa, where's Lassie?
Whether it's Lassie or that rascal Benji. Pets are part of our lives.
You're so wise. You're like a miniature Buddha covered in hair.
Enter the star of this story. Meet Bosun, a peppy 5-year-old mixed poodle.
Come on, are we going to do brushies? Let's go. Okay, up you get. Good boy. Good boy.
Few dogs are pampered more than Bosun.
We'll do brushies.
Julia Phelan adores him like her only son.
Are you my little boy? My handsome little boy? Are you? Gonna kiss Mommy?
Julia is engaged to David Tuninga and lives with him and his children from a previous marriage. Bosun is an important new member of this blended family.
I would explain it like a love for a child. I don't have any children of my own, but he's like having a little child that will never grow up. That's my baby. That's a good boy.
What could be wrong with a love like this?
You're such a good boy.
Hey, Gus, smile.
A kiss may not be just a kiss, according to veterinarians like Barry Pearl.
We're emotional. We love our pets, but when they lick our faces, we have to realize that we're taking on a little bit of risk.
It's a myth that dogs and cats have clean mouths. They're animals like us, so their saliva carries bacteria and potentially disease.
Well, the concern is that you just don't know where that pet's mouth has been, whether they've eaten something recently outside, potentially eating their own stool or another animal's feces, whether they've drank from contaminated water.
I just want to show you, isolate a few clips of some of the behaviors that they did with the dog, and I wanted just to get your reaction. So the first one here.
I want Dr. Pearl to meet Bosun. Pearl has been a vet for 20 years, but even he is in for an eye-opener. Dinner is served.
Oh, yeah. Have you seen it, Graham?
Nothing but the best.
As usual, Bosun is the center of attention.
There you go. That's my boy. I know. I know.
He's getting used to this. Yeah, well,
Well, that's, we don't see that every day.
Oh, you're gonna get a nice bone. Look, buddy. Look. Look at that.
People are going to talk about the weird Taninga family.
Yep.
With the dog at the table.
He's adorable.
He's a cute little dog.
Good-looking dog. And he's well-behaved.
Yep.
I'll tell you, I would sit that pretty in my chair for prime room as well.
Yeah.
Who wouldn't?
David also spoils Bosun.
But he likes
Especially on the boat when, you know, we're going along and...
You see that often?
I don't know that I've ever seen that.
Yeah.
I mean, that even in my eyes, is probably extreme.
Yeah.
You know, the fact that when they were cutting into their steak and then giving some to the pet and then just eating themselves, that's extreme. But I wouldn't say that I'm shocked by it, because I just know how much people love their pets, how passionate they are about their pets.
I don't think we're alone in that. I think there's a lot of people who are pretty close to their pets.
Where we walk the dog, you don't even have to know these people. You're instantly on the same planet as they are with the dog.
The power of love is hard to resist. Even Dr. Pearl admits to stealing a kiss with his own cat.
You know, sometimes you do things that maybe are not the best advised. I really believe it's sometimes a matter of the heart, where we do things that maybe, I guess, as Spock used to say on Star Trek, that is a little bit illogical.
Julia and David aren't aware of the risks, albeit low, of living with pets. Dogs and cats can infect humans with ringworm, C. difficile, streptococcus virus, and the treatable but potentially fatal leptospirosis. Cat droppings can carry toxoplasmosis, which can cause birth defects. So now that Julia and David know, will they still smooch their pooch? On cue, the star of the show provides the opportunity for a perfect test. During our interview, Bosun gets sick.
I was going to vomit.
Here comes the
He's going to die. Too much lamb.
Are you going to kiss him now?
It's all too gross for David.
Oh, no, I got to kiss him up, buddy.
But Julia feels a mother's anguish for her sick baby.
Did you still kiss him?
Sure. Julia may be pushing her luck.
I think the fact that these problems happen so rarely is what gives people maybe a false confidence that there never would be a problem.
Dr. Pearl offers some advice. Don't feed pets raw food. There's a higher risk of harmful bacteria. And don't let pets lick your face, especially on the lips or nose, as hard as that may be to resist.
It's all about the cookies.
Peter Walsh, CBC News, Toronto.
Evan, who knew that loving your pet so much could get you in so much trouble?
My mother knew, Carol, and this is the thing.
Oh, really?
My mother was so strict. No dogs. We had a dog, of course, growing up, and no dogs at the table. I don't know, maybe the dog did kind of lick our face. I guess that was pretty normal. I don't remember the sharing of food like that, or the dog drinking water, and I tell you, that was, as the vet said, that's pretty extreme. Not only, I guess, from a medical point of view, just from a kind of interaction point of view.
Well, let me ask you this. You know, let's take it up a notch and widen the discussion out a bit. I mean, we just had a conversation about, you know, you shouldn't be able to, and you're not allowed to drink raw milk unless you raise it yourself. You can't smoke. You can't have more than 1 glass of wine a day. You can't kiss your dog now. You can't lie around the couch. I mean, it seems like we're living in this very low-risk society, that the whole idea is to reduce our risk to the point where we're completely safe. But then you have to ask the question, are you really living?
Yeah, that's a great point, Carol. My only response to that is I agree, I'm not into that kind of live in a bubble, but making out with your pet here, okay? Is that such a, is that a line that is really that hard to draw?
That's a bit of an exaggeration, my friend. They weren't French kissing on the couch and peeking under the covers. I mean, she was just giving, you know, and you see that, I see that with friends of mine, and I'm not going to mention any names, but I see with friends of mine who actually will give their dog a kiss on the lips and let them do that, and because people want to give love.
I know, but I mean, you really, it's like, what kind of a society are we living in? You can't even make out with your dog anymore, this politically correct.
Okay, fair enough.
Wow, yeah. Call me kind of, you know, I'm so buttoned down, you know, but, you know, that whole, listen, love your pet. We had a cat, I grew up with dogs, love them, but, you know, maybe there's a line, you know, you know.
Okay, I'll give you that. I'll give you that. We'll be right back with your thoughts on last week's show. Please stay with us.
Mob hit gone bad.
And all of a sudden I felt my hair move and then realized there were bullets.
A mobster turned informant.
He's the one that's going to order my death. A man with no heart.
On the run with the rat. The Fifth Estate. Tonight at 7 Eastern on CBC Newsworld.
So this is Christmas. And what have you done? Another year over. And a new one just begun.
A new year is about to begin. What better time to start helping a child who may not make it without you? Please, call this number now. You'll receive information about sponsoring a child through Christian Children's Fund of Canada. You can help provide a child in need, along with that child's family and community, with food, medical care, schooling, a future.
Christmas. For the weak and for the strong. The rich and the poor ones. The road is so long.
Call Christian Children's Fund of Canada now for information and with no obligation. Within 10 days of your call, you will receive the photo and story of a child in need and information on how to become a sponsor. A simple phone call. So little to do, but to a child who needs your help, it is the most meaningful Christmas present you may ever give. Call now and sponsor by pre-authorized check or by credit card and receive your choice of free gift. Our way of saying thank you for helping a child in need. Your generous contribution will give a child a chance. Please call Christian Children's Fund of Canada today.
You imagine a world where safety has nothing to do with size? The impact-reducing ACE body structure in the new CR-V, only from Honda.
There's no rush.
The sign's wrong! The sign's wrong!
Right now, get 2 matzo burgers for only $6 at A&W.
In a country that is more like a prison camp, starvation and injustice leave citizens with only one way out. North Korea's Underground, Monday at 10 Eastern and Pacific on CBC Newsworld. Take a walk on the wild side. Tune in for a series of docs that'll keep you on the edge of your seat. Wild Docs, Wednesdays at 10 on CBC Newsworld.
Last week, we brought you a story on how horses help people go through psychotherapy. Here's an excerpt.
If a horse connects with you, you experience something that's very authentic and powerful.
Many of you wrote to share your stories of horses that have been a positive force in your lives. Kathleen Johnson from Calgary had this to say.
I volunteer at a horse rescue in southern Alberta. While our efforts are focused on saving horses, I've long witnessed that the rescue helps a lot more than just the horses. People that become involved with these animals take so much away from the experience. Thank you for bringing attention to the grace and wonders of the horse.
We concluded last week's show with a performance by Ashley McIsaac in memory of John Allen Cameron, the godfather of the Canadian Celtic movement, who passed away on November 22nd. Jean Tingley from Wheatley River PEI wrote in, "Kudos to Sunday for their musical tribute to John Allen Cameron. It was great to see Ashley all grown up and dressed like a gentleman for the tribute. John Allen would be proud." Ashley was just terrific. Also last week on our segment called The Story Next Door, we brought you the Ansell family of Port Alberni, BC, and their story of high seas adventure. A number of you asked how to get Maggie Ansell's book, When the Wind Blows. You can find it at the website address that's now on your screen. And yes, there it is. Evan, are you there?
Yes, and I just wanted to point out here before we get to just some final thoughts that the tribute to John Allen, or John Allen Cameron, we got a lot of letters also about Carol's contribution to that tribute. Nice pipes on MacNeil there, and that was great. People were really appreciative of how you joined spontaneously, in quotation marks, Ashley McIsaac, but that was a great number. And we also, I know you're too modest to say, but lots of viewers enjoyed that. But I'll tell you something, Carol, here in Montreal, you know, as I say, they're cleaning up the Palais de Congrès, but this morning, Stéphane Dion, the new leader of the Liberal Party, will be giving a press conference. Already you're seeing the kind of movement, the jockeying for position within the party as this new group of people, Gerard Kennedy, Stéphane Dion, we saw Martha Hall Finley earlier on the show, trying to find a place within the party. And of course, the party, as our panelists talk about, are trying to unify. Michael Ignatieff's theme last night was tous ensemble, let's be together now, trying to recapture party unity, but it is something that the Liberals will have a lot of work to do to get there.
Yeah, I remember, I think it was Kennedy as well, and correct me if I'm wrong, Evan, but Kennedy who said, when we leave tonight, no matter who wins, it won't be if I win, it won't be Kennedy Liberals versus Ray Liberals or Dion Liberals, it'll just be Liberals, right? That was the message of many of them. Am I correct about that? Did I get that right? Yeah. But
yeah, you're right. But you know, we're seeing all around here, Carol, and I don't know. Sorry if I cut you off, but no. There are people here who were in tears. There's Ignatieff supporters around here. There is a lot of hurt pride. A lot of people who who have ambition that was thwarted, and those are the kind of things that a leader now has to pull together in order to unify the party to fight the much more important electoral fight for the Liberal Party, which is, of course, against Stephen Harper and shoring up their left flank there against the NDP. And can he do that?
I think, you know, I think that kind of tears at a convention, everybody was so invested in their own particular leader. I think that's natural. It's just, the question is, do the real divisions, you know, when you had the Chrétien-Martin years and the Chrétien Liberals and the Martin Liberals, do those divides still exist? Are there fundamental schisms inside of the party that go beyond just a few tears on a very emotional night when 4 people are competing for the leadership?
Well, I think the old psychodrama of the Chrétien-Martinites is in some sense put to bed. I think there is a new dynamic, which is sort of a much more maybe an old guard, a new guard, and that old drama is not being played. We saw the Ignatieff-Ray drama kind of shunted aside, and so we've got some new dynamics that are unfolding here, obviously, in the Liberal Party. What was amazing, Carol, and you've been to many conventions yourself, as you know, as you go, and we saw in our piece at the top of the show, when you're on the convention floor, you get a real worm's eye view. The delegates don't know what's going on. The drama, and the Liberals have voted to keep this form of convention now with delegates as opposed to membership vote, one membership vote. But you see people walking across the floor. There's a very big sense of drama unfolding. I think people watching it on TV have a actually wider view of these things, and we'll see more conventions like this in the Liberal Party.
Evan, just hang on for a second. I'll talk to you in a second. We should say goodbye to our audience and tell them that we will see them tonight. You're coming back to Toronto, yes?
I am on the plane back, MacNeil.
Okay, we'll see you shortly. And to our viewers, we'll see you tonight at 10 o'clock. So,
okay,
Evan,
Carol,
you were saying?